Last week, a parental rights organization was locked out of Twitter after criticizing a California gender transition bill. After they say Twitter gave them no response for nearly a week, they rescinded their tweet and had their account reinstated. NTD's Daniel Hall hears why the moms are fighting so hard against the transgender bill.
Moms for Liberty, a parental rights organization started by two moms, was locked out of its Twitter account last week. The account was back on Monday. The incident began when they posted a tweet that criticized California's Senate Bill 107 called Gender-Affirming Healthcare. Co-founder Tiffany Justice discussed the bill before Twitter reactivated the account.
SB 107, which is a bill in California that State Senator Scott Wiener has put up and sponsored, that would in essence make California a sanctuary state for children that are seeking gender transition.
Twitter then locked the organization's account, citing violations like harassment of race, ethnicity, and gender. The original tweet said, "Gender dysphoria is a mental health disorder that is being normalized by predators across the USA. California kids are at extreme risk from predatory adults."
Twitter apparently didn't like that, so they have locked me out of the account and said it was hateful conduct, and I'm not quite sure. I've asked many times to Twitter now. I've asked every day, actually, and I'm still not sure why it was considered to be hateful conduct. They have not given us that answer. I think it's very clear that Twitter can't give me an explanation because there isn't one.
Nicole Young, a leader of the group's Placer County chapter in California, denounced the Twitter lockout and called it blatant censorship. She accused state lawmakers of intentionally keeping parents in the dark about gender-affirming legislation.
It wasn't a lie, it wasn't misrepresentation, it was a factual statement. It was obviously one Twitter did not like. I do not agree with censorship. I do not agree with digital platforms censoring voices that they don't like on either side, progressive or conservative. All voices should be heard, and it's up to us to decide whether that is true or false.
Justice said they were disappointed in Twitter and are not anticipating any response. She canceled the appeal to gain back full control of her account. Justice added she wants to keep growing her organization and educating its members of what is going on in the classrooms. The organization says that parents should be the decision makers for their children and not lawmakers. SB 107 is set to be heard again in the legislature this week.
An armed robbery backfired when suspects enter a store in Riverside County with long guns. The store owner shoots one, scaring them away.
Four armed suspects attempted to rob a liquor store in Norco on Sunday. Photos and surveillance videos show the suspects wearing facial coverings and hoods coming out from a dark-colored BMW SUV and approaching the entrance with long guns. They pointed their rifles at the owner in the store. The 80-year-old fired a single shot from a shotgun, causing the suspects to flee. Authorities located the suspects at a hospital where one is suffering from a gunshot wound. They found the vehicle, which was stolen, with numerous stolen firearms. 3 suspects were immediately arrested and booked in the Robert Presley Detention Center for robbery and conspiracy. The 3 identified suspects, all in their 20s from different cities, are being held on a $500,000 bail. The main 23-year-old male suspect remains hospitalized in critical but stable condition. His name has not been released. He will be booked into Riverside County Jail upon his release from the hospital. According to the sheriff's office, in this case, a lawfully armed member of our community prevented a violent crime and ensured their own safety while being confronted with multiple armed suspects. The incident is under investigation. Those with information are encouraged to contact the sheriff's office.
When someone needs help in a crisis, they all know to dial 911. And now the mental health crisis version of that is live, with a similarly short number, 988. With the newly established number comes newly established call centers. That's where NTD's David Lamb went to see how these crisis call centers work.
On Tuesday, the County of Santa Clara in Northern California debuted its new crisis call center to help those with mental health crises. The number 988 is a combined line from different call services, which previously received hundreds of calls per day.
Our ultimate goal is making sure that we send the right response to the right call. If it's a mental health call, we want to be able to send a clinician. If it's a public safety call, it's going to go back to public safety. If it's a family in crisis, we're going to be able to get them counseling.
Now they're trying to implement it under one roof.
Come this fall, this whole section will be filled with teams from different response units, and it's to make things simple for those who call 988.
According to the county, they have 10 full-time county staff and 75 volunteers trained to help those experiencing emotional distress, such as thoughts of suicide, mental health, or substance use.
Yeah, I think it's essential.
A program manager with the county says there's been an uptick on demand and services from callers.
When you're in crisis, when you're having a crisis situation, you don't want to have to press a bunch of phone tree options and call a bunch of different numbers and be transferred around as much. You want to be able to talk to somebody.
The responders on the other end can deploy in-person help or connect to another service.
On the non-crisis team, we get 400 calls a day. On the suicide, we get about 100 calls. Again, we get right around 75 to 80,000 total calls a year.
Along with the new 988 crisis number, the county still has a non-crisis line at 1-800-704-0900. In the future, they hope to unify it under the 988 phone system in order to expedite their services. David Lamb, NTD News, California.
With the reforms in the criminal justice system, California tried to bring forward a ballot initiative to remove the state's three strikes law this year. But the initiative didn't collect enough signatures. The attorney who took part in drafting the law explains what the law is and why he and his father put it together.
California's three strikes law was written to avoid giving a second chance to the wrong kind of person. That's according to Michael Reynolds, a private attorney who helped author the law. He explained to California Insider's CMAC Karami how three strikes law works.
The three strikes law, to get the highest sentence under that, which is 25 years to life, you had to commit a felony as your triggering crime, but you had to have at least 2 serious or violent prior felonies.
In California, it costs about $106,000 per year to incarcerate an inmate. But Reynolds says society pays an even higher cost when the criminals are released to commit crimes. He experienced the tragedy firsthand. After his sister was murdered in July 1992, he and his father started the Three Strikes Law initiative.
We had this explosion of crime in California, and it had just been getting worse and worse and worse until the early 1990s. It just became intolerable. And that, of course, is when my sister was killed by repeat felons who were on parole. And sure enough, the rap sheets of the men who killed my sister were case in point of why you have to change the balance of power in favor of law-abiding citizens and not in favor of these criminals with a rap sheet a mile long.
California crimes are divided into 3 types. Infractions are the lowest type of crime, like running a stop sign. Misdemeanors are medium-level crimes that don't usually result in incarceration. Felonies are the most serious, punishable by time in state prison. After the Three Strikes Law passed in 1994, prisoners had to serve at least 80% of their sentence before they are eligible for parole. In 2021, the Attorney General proposed to repeal it, saying it would decrease the prison population and use the funds for education, restorative justice, and transitional housing. But Reynolds said the right people were behind bars.
The reason the prison population didn't explode, which is what a lot of the pundits said, was because the people who were locking up were already going to prison. They were serving life in prison anyway. They were just doing it in installments. They would, do 2 or 3 years for a serious crime. They'd come out, and then within a few months, they'd be right back in. So we were just eliminating that interregnum in between prison sentences, and in doing so, we were eliminating the crimes they were committing, which means we were preventing more and more people from becoming crime victims.
Reynolds added that it wasn't only a higher police presence that kept crime low, but also keeping the career criminals off the streets.
On Saturday, the Los Gatos police arrested 5 suspects involved in the Apple Store robbery in Walnut Creek. Police pursued the suspects during a high-risk vehicle stop, where 2 were arrested. They found 2 loaded handguns, 1 was a ghost gun. Further investigation revealed 3 more suspects in another vehicle, which contained the stolen laptops, iPads, and iPhones. Some renters in California will face up to 10% increase in rent. That's from a new law going into effect Monday, allowing landlords to raise rental prices to a new capped level.
California renters may soon be paying more every month. For example, Southern California renters may face a monthly increase of between $200 and $300. That's on top of some of the highest prices in the country. The rental hikes are authorized by a statewide rent control and tenant protection law, Assembly Bill 1482. Governor Gavin Newsom signed it into law in October 2019. AB 1482 caps annual rent increases in the state at 5%, plus the cost of living, which reached 9.1% nationally last month, but restricts most increases to 10%. The state estimates about 1.5 million tenants are facing eviction following the moratorium that allowed them to claim exemption from rental payments if they were affected by the pandemic. But according to Brittany Benson, general manager of the Los Angeles-based National Association of Independent Landlords, quote, "There are a lot of landlords that still haven't been paid. If someone's not paying rent, raising it isn't going to make a huge difference." She added that in cities that already have a rent control ordinance in place, AB 1482 extends rent caps to some additional housing not covered under existing local laws. According to the California Apartment Association, the law exempts most single-family homes and condominiums, commercial properties, and housing built within the last 15 years. 46% of Californians say their housing costs make them seriously consider moving out of the area of the state in which they live, with most of them saying they have seriously considered moving out of state, according to the survey. Bill Thomas, NTD News, California.